Basically, what happens in the dream scene is that the action of the play stops for 50 pages. Uh, some major characters go to sleep and have a dream. And in this dream, other characters appear, though they have something in common with the characters we've already met, and they stand around and talk for 50 pages. And you're going, oh man, that sounds awful. Well, you can't do that. And Shaw knew that audiences would respond that way. And actually, when the play was first produced, it was produced without that scene just because it made things long. But the scene itself has been done as its own little thing called Don Juan in Hell. And it's been put on records and done as a radio play. People like it on its own, but it's a heck of a thing to stop the action of a story's plot for 50 pages. To just hit the pause button on the plot and have characters talk about things that are interesting to them. And not many people could get away with it. I think Shaw did, but you won't be able to enjoy it unless you know what the heck's going on. So that's why I'm doing this. Don Juan has appeared in all kinds of stories, but perhaps the single most famous one is an opera by Mozart called Don Giovanni. Giovanni is the Italian word for Juan. Juan is Spanish, John is English, Giovanni is Italian. And the opera, like most operas, was written in Italian. And Don Giovanni is about the career of Don Juan and the basic, and so this scene keeps kind of referring back to Don Giovanni. Okay, the basic plot line of Don Giovanni begins with him having a woman yell for the cops, basically. Not for the cops, but there's a woman named Donna Anna, and Don Juan has almost seduced her, or perhaps did seduce her. The opera's a little vague on that, but she's a respectable gentlewoman, and she is horrified by this man trying to dishonor her, so she screams bloody murder, and her father, who's an ex-general, the commander, comes out and sees wants to avenge his daughter's honor, so he fights a duel with Don Giovanni, and Don Giovanni kills him. Okay, so that's the opening of the opera. Then a bunch of other stuff happens. He keeps having misadventures with various women, all kinds of stuff goes on like that. Donna Anna builds a statue to her father because, in honor of him as such an honorable, heroic man. So he's done as a statue. And at a certain point late in the opera, the ghost of the commander appears to Don Juan in the form of the statue. And the ghost warns him to repent. He says, "Sinner, repent, or you will burn in hell forever." And Don Juan is, well, nuts to you, buddy. I'm not scared. You don't scare me. Hell doesn't scare me. Nothing scares me. And the statue says, "You'll be scared when you really see it." And Don Giovanni said, "Why don't you come to dinner tomorrow night? I'll throw you a dinner. Why don't you come to dinner tomorrow night?" And the statue says, "All right. Meantime, you better think and do some repenting." And then Don Juan laughs it off. And the next night at this feast, the statue reappears. And the climax of the play, he keeps saying, "Repent, repent, repent." Don Giovanni says, "Nuts to you, forget about it." And the climactic scene, evidently, is supposed to be quite a thing. I've never seen it in the opera house, but it's supposed to be a big effect. They have a trapdoor in the floor, and demons drag Don Juan into hell. And he screams and laments like a lost soul. So that's the arc of Don Giovanni. Now, what happens in Shaw's scene is that the idea is that Donna Anna, who, as an old lady, dies and goes to the afterlife. And there she runs into Don Juan, who is already there because he died younger. And they interact, and she finds out, what this place is like that she's ended up in, this afterworld, and how it works. I'll give you a hint. It's not what you and I think of conventionally in terms of what hell would be like. It's supposed to be happening in hell, but this is hell with a difference. And then eventually the statue of her father appears and joins the conversation. And eventually the devil himself joins the conversation. And the devil is also not completely what you think he would be. Okay, so the four of them have this conversation down in hell. And there you'll notice Don Juan talk a lot about this thing, the life force, and what he thinks human purpose is. And so that's why I'm making you read it. At certain times, I've tried assigning this play without making people read the dream scene, but then you leave out the real reason that Shaw wanted to write the play. He wasn't that interested in a romantic comedy per se. He got interested in a romantic comedy because sexual desire is part of the life force. Sexual desire is part of what makes new life happen, right? At least with our species and other mammal species. So one of the things that play is interested in is what makes for, we sometimes call it chemistry. What makes for sexual chemistry between two people? What draws them together? What makes them desire each other enough not only to have sex, but to start a family together, to have children together, to marry each other for life? What's all that about? And Don Juan presents it as the life force using us to get its way. Okay, so I think that should be enough. You've got a romantic comedy, but you've also got this whole philosophical thing going on underneath it. And I hope you have a good time. I have a good time. This play tends to go over when I put it on the stage. And mostly that's because of the classic romantic comedy reasons. What makes from the movies, what makes a romantic comedy work is the chemistry between the two leads, between the lead characters. And if we feel it and it's like, oh boy, this is steamy, and we find them interesting, then we're into it. And if the chemistry isn't there, then the whole thing dies. And I think the way Shaw wrote this, there's a pretty darn cool chemistry between its two leads. But you'll see what you think.